Okay, so the ePassport application process. At this point, you should have already completed your KRA PIN application, and in my case, I got my application, my PIN, relatively quickly, but your case may differ. However, the good thing is that you've already slid the beast that is the KRA application, and now you got a better understanding of some of the forms, the inputs, and some of the formatting, so that helps you in the next process, which is the actual passport application. However, there will still be some headache. Now, before we go on, again, this is just a reminder that this is not showing you what you should be entering in the form. It just shows, I just want to show you where the areas I can run into some issues, and hopefully you can avoid those headaches and move your process along a little bit quicker. There's some key points here, and it's in no particular order. The first being the birth certificate. The embassy staff did indicate that there are two numbers on a birth certificate. One is, I think, is on the top right, which is probably the form number, and the other being on the left hand side, which is called the entry number. That's what you're going to need. Again, the KRA PIN is going to be required for this part of the process. It is a required piece of information. You should have received that by now before proceeding on to this step. There are going to be some formatting issues, and that is the main goal of the next section, is just to show you some of the areas where these formatting issues will give you a bit of a headache. Second to last is the next of kin. You're going to need two next of kin, and they're going to both require Kenyan ID, so that's something you have to keep in mind. Then the recommend ID, you're going to need a copy of that. There's a piece of it they actually need to sign the form. However, the people at the embassy did give us some information which could help in that step if that's something you're not able to capture at the time. And unlike previous applications here, there's no notarized letter. Before, when you had to make an application, you needed this letter from another Kenyan of sound mind, as they put it, who pretty much would vouch for the veracity of your Kenyanness or something to that effect, but that wasn't required at this point. So right now we're just going to look at the form itself, and so we can highlight some of the areas where I ran into some of those pain points. Okay, I wanted to show you this page real quick, because once you go to the Department of Immigration Services service on eCitizen and select passport application, you're pretty much off to the races. You don't get a view of this, and this is where the frustration comes in. So it takes you page by page. So you're gonna go through category, adult application, instructions, and so forth. And then once you get to the applicant details right here, you don't see this information ahead of time. So you get to applicant details, and then that's when you find out, oh, there's some information I'm missing. Then you go to the parents details, and you're like, oh crap, there's information I'm missing, and then you kind of stop the process and so forth, even next of kin. So just wanted to go through this show you here, and you can stop and pause and take screenshots and see what is actually needed. But we're going to go through it real quick so we can see residential details, parents details, next of kin and second next of kin, children's particulars, recommendation, and then the upload. So, and then next I'm just gonna go through some of the areas where you might run into some formatting issues. Alright, so at this point you're just gonna enter the data just like you'd any other normal application. You don't want to keep in mind that this, I'm not trying to show you what to enter or how to enter it. This is just to demonstrate some of the areas you might run into some issues, especially concerning some of the formatting. So again, you choose the application. Everything is going to be dependent on your situation, right? If it's for yourself, so you hit next, or your application now, I hit next. Then it gives you some information here about some legal notices. How long does it take to get the passport? I think that those 5 working days is a very squishy number. You want to read this about how to apply, obviously. Then talk about the biometric, what you must appear obviously for the biometric. And again, I talked about in the intro as to why I feel that does not avail itself to the entire diaspora community because of some circumstances. And the originals, they talk about originals. Please bring your originals. And I don't think this was necessary when I went out there, but if you do have that information, please bring it. And here's a fee schedule. So this is in shillings, so you want to divide it roughly by 100 to get the US dollar conversion. And then in red here it talks about some of the areas you don't want to use this to apply for anybody else's passport apart from your own. Again, bring originals, and do not book travel. Some of those ticket fees are not plane ticket fees are not refundable, and if you don't have a valid passport, you may be out of some money. Dual citizenship, you want to fill in the information if this applies to you. If not, you hit next. And then I just already fill out some information here just so that we can get this process going. The passport type, ordinary or diplomatic, the application type, whether it's a first time replacement, etc. And the page count, 34, 50, 66, and I put in a fake previous passport number. But these three up here will actually determine the price of the passport. So going here to section 5 is where you will enter most of the data about yourself, and this is where I wanted to show you some of the issues we talked about formatting. So if you choose anything outside any of these Kenya locations, and if you choose US or maybe UK, you think that this would be smart enough or intuitive enough to understand that the inputs are then should be originally formatted. So things like dates, phone numbers especially, and addresses should then follow the original formatting of the location if selected. However, that is not the case. So I've entered some dummy information here just to get this process going along, and we're gonna just try to see what happens here. Let's take this out and put in. So got the pin. You want to make sure you got that before you go ahead. And here the birth entry number, I kind of talked about that previously, that it's not the number on the top right, but the number inside the form itself, titled as birth entry number. And then this could be a perfectly, I don't know if it's an actual address, but this could be a perfectly legal address here in the US, but once we hit next, we're going to see some of the areas that pop up. So the first thing here that pops up is the date format. Again, if you've spent the amount of time in the US, you will understand that this number here, this format, is what the way that they actually take most of the inputs here, month, day, and year. But here they want 1980, the year first, 0131. And then down here, what else? Okay, so the pin has to be properly formatted. Again, this is just a dummy one. You just want to make sure that it matches what the one that was generated when you fill out the pin. What else is here? We'll talk about the birth entry number. So again, now this way you're going to start having to do some gymnastics regarding the address. Can you abbreviate it? And then I'll show you something very interesting about that. But you see, again, it's talking about a max of 15 characters here. So now I'm like, okay, yeah, this should be good. And then it's like, oh, you can't enter. Generally when you're trying to abbreviate here in the US, like instead of street, you'd put, ST, full stop, or north, full stop. But now, so again, this is what I was talking about, where you will have to do some gymnastics just to get some of these inputs actually to go through. So, again, you'll have to figure that out. So here you want to put your mother's or father's information. If you do have the details available, it does. This is a bit of a longer form, but otherwise you can select one of the other two. And then this chap here, okay, next of kin, this is where you have to enter an ID number, 2 of them, and they're Kenyan IDs, because it's asking for division, location, and stuff like that, and it's all required except for the email. And then again, phone numbers, which are Kenyan format. At least they're giving you the formatting here prior to you trying to enter something else, and then you end up getting one of those errors. But the next few pages are, I think it's about children, your children's details, recommenders details, and then finally some uploads. But those ones, if you've gotten this far, the rest of it should be pretty much a cakewalk. Okay, so at this point you've done most of the work, right? You've had the last couple of pages of the application. At the very end, you need to upload several documents, which includes both yours and your recommenders' IDs, front and back, as well as several pages from the passport. Now, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, if I remember correctly, this was actually maxed out at 195 kilobytes. The problem being is that most modern devices, whether it's your cell phone or cameras, it's gonna, they're gonna start taking things in the megabyte range. So you may actually be forced to open up some image manipulation software to try to get it down to this acceptable size limit, which is again pretty small by today's standard. Now, if you get through that piece and now you go to the next step, which is a payment, you have to understand that this eCitizen is a .ke website, so it's a Kenyan domain, and my first few attempts were actually flagged as fraud. So what you may want to do is get your financial services customer service people on the phone and let them know that this payment will be coming through, so that they don't hold up the process. Another thing to keep in mind is that you may want to use a credit card as opposed to a debit card. I believe the debit card, just whether it's a lack of security or some of the backing or the insurance behind the purchases are not as comprehensive as a credit card, they do trigger a lot more false positive fraud alert. Finally, there is also a fee that's going to be charged in addition to the cost of the passport if you're using a credit card, and you should be aware of that. It's roughly, the 32 page was about $45 USD. With the fees, adds another couple of dollars, which you should be aware of. There's an M-Pesa option, which does not seem to incur that fee. However, to set up the account with the M-Pesa, you do need a SIM that has a 254 Kenyan phone number. And so for people who are on this side of the pond, whether it's in Canada or the United States, that may not be an option for you. So just a couple of things to keep in mind after you go through the process. Alright, so you're in the proverbial home stretch, but I believe the way that the eCitizen site takes payment and informs you on the status of the payment is kind of clunky and could give you a false sense of security that your payment has been processed, where in fact it has not. One way to check is when you go to the eCitizen home page on the Department of Immigration Services, your passport application number will be listed there. Click on that link, it will take you to a page which has more details about your application. In the middle of the page is the payment section, and if you click on that button right there, the print button, it will give you one of two documents, well, at least in my case. The first time I clicked it, I got this chart right here. It's red, invoice not paid, and as I mentioned before, the reason was because I got hit with a couple of fraud declines. The one that the embassy wants you to bring is this guy here. It says receipt paid, it's in green, indicates things are good. Now, I actually did see somebody at the embassy who brought in the red one, and this has some downstream effects, right? There's only one chap at that time was processing these documents, so this bogged down the whole process when Abdi is trying to figure out why you're telling him that your payment is not processed and showing him this invoice instead of the receipt, and it just bogs down and just delays the process, not only for yourself but for everybody else. So receipt paid, and bring that to the embassy to ensure that the process is and the experience is smooth, not only for yourself but for the people who come in behind you. Alright, so at this point you've completed the application in full and you've made your payment and confirmed that it is actually paid and not in an invoice status but actually a receipt paid status. So on the same page as you click to get the copy of your receipt, right above it is a downloads page and it has a link, a little print icon for the passport application form. So you just want to click on that, and they just wanted one copy, so bring that with you to the embassy.